Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my review for the anime Puella Magi Madoka Magica, and the third movie, Rebellion, since that kind of ties it up as a sequel to it. And this was an interesting anime to me. I enjoyed it and was very unnerved by it. Um, it's it's very hard for me to describe this anime because I do think it is very well done. I do not think that it is a bad anime in any respect whatsoever. I believe it's going to be put in a place for me like one of those masterpieces that you would show someone like Cowboy Bebop or Steins Gate, and it works very well. It just, the subject matter and everything really unnerved me, and I've seen like horror movies and stuff like that, but this kind of thing really messed with me for some reason. I just think the subject matter of like putting these middle school girls in these kind of situations and all of the crazy shit that ensues just really kind of got to me. I think also dealing with the fact that like I'm a big brother and I've had a little sister, it kind of like whenever you do something like this to children and like little girls, it kind of freaks me out a little bit. Because this series deals with magical girls. And at first, you would look at everything and you'd be like, oh, it's just a magical girl series. It's okay. No, this is not Sailor Moon. I've seen Sailor Moon. I love Sailor Moon. Great show. This is not Sailor Moon. If you're like, got someone who you think, oh, who'd like a magical girl series. This is not it. Stop here right now. It's a good anime to watch, but you have to kind of go in with the mindset that this is not what it appears to be. And if you're going in thinking that it's going to be a happy magical girl series where everybody fights the bad guys and wins in the end, no. It's vastly more complex than that, even though there's only 12 episodes in it. And then, of course, the third movie, Rebellion. The other two were just the first two movies were just a rehash of the 12 episodes. And it's just like, okay, I would recommend watching this, but if you're thinking that it's just going to be straight up magical girl, no. So, this deals with Madoka and her friends, and kind of just like, at first it's kind of slow. It's like, okay, I know this deals with magic, what's going on? So, of course, they get this new student in the classroom, Homura, and she's kind of a little bit off. She's kind of like standoffish and all that, and pretty much goes up to Madoka, like, after she's like trying to take her to the nurse's office because she's the class rep that does that, and telling her to not make a contract with this creature, Cuba. It's like, what the heck? Okay. And we start learning more about the world and that there's magical girls. And the first one is Mami, and because she like pops up to stop Homura from killing this white cat creature, which is the Kyubey creature that she's trying to stop from getting in contact with Madoka. So, of course, Mami and Madoka and her friend Sayaka kind of like talk it over, and of course Kyubey talks with them as well and offers to make them magical girls and make a contract with them, grant them any wish possible, which sounds like a Faustian deal, which definitely goes throughout the rest of the series, and he will transform them into magical girls. So, of course, Madoka, who is the most kind of gung-ho in the beginning, doesn't go through with it at first. It's Sayaka who first makes it to heal her one friend who was in a bad accident so he could play again. But this has really bad consequences because, of course, she did that, spurred on by that, but also spurred on by the death of Mami because she was killed by a witch in one of the, having her head bit off before Homura comes in and saves, of course, Sayaka and Madoka, and it's like, holy shit. And of course, Sayaka is pretty much berating Homura, saying that she was waiting to get the witch herself, because it's like, okay, magical girls fight these witches. Alright. But I'd already kind of got the feeling that there's something kind of off, because they introduced the concept of grief seeds, which look a lot like the soul gems that the magical girls have. And, of course, as it keeps going on, we see and find out that witches are the final transformation of magical girls. That when you make this contract, your soul is extracted from your body and put into this. Your body is essentially dead. And of course, Kyubey is explaining this to Sayaka that she will, that her body's pretty much dead, that she's a zombie. And seeing the psychological ramifications of that, like, choice drive her to the despair and become a witch is, like, completely unnerving and just crazy. And then we start getting into the effect that we find out that Homura is essentially a time traveler similar to Okabe from Steins Gate, except she has been reliving the same month over and over and over again trying to save Madoka, her friend, because we find out that in her timeline, Madoka was already a magical girl, and of course she becomes a magical girl to kind of like help out and everything, and we find out that this one very powerful witch is supposed to come up, and that it's supposed to create untold shit and either like all of them die, or it usually goes into the effect that Madoka is the one that like dies and everything, and either she becomes like the greatest magical girl and then like the greatest witch. And we find out that Kyubey's race has been doing this to fight off the entropy of the universe, and that this is the best stage to find this, that they use emotional energy that like girls this age have to fight off the entropy of the universe, and that they consider emotions a mental illness among themselves. You get a very Lovecraftian kind of Cthulhian horror kind of vibe off of these things. They do not understand or care about humans, even going to the effect of calling them livestock to be cold, and how they are kind of, how he is confused at how Madoka would be so reluctant to become a magical girl and everything. So, we see Sayaka to turn into a witch and pretty much be taken out and take out this kind of like rogue magical girl that was pretty much a veteran but was being kind of an asshole in the beginning, but then we gradually see that everyone's wishes kind of have their balancing effect. Like this rogue one wished for people to listen to her father, but then when the father found out about this wish, killed the family and himself and left the girl alone. Of course, Sayaka makes the wish for her friend to be better and probably thought about some kind of romantic thing going on, but of course her body is killed and she's essentially a zombie. One of her friends goes out with the kid, and seeing how nobody like respects her sacrifices that she's making turns into a witch. So of course the balancing, she wanted to save people, but in the end became the thing that would be killing and harming people. And, of course, Homura is just trying to save Madoka. And, of course, we get towards the end, and Homura is the only magical girl left and can't defeat this powerful witch. So Madoka makes this call to essentially become a god. And that wasn't her real kind of wish, because we find out that since Homura has been trying to undo this destiny, it has increased the potential of Madoka exponentially to where she could become the most powerful magical girl and most powerful witch possible. And thereby, Kyubey is like, we can make any wish you want possible, and of course she wishes to stop all magical girls from becoming witches, even kind of herself, kind of like becoming the law of cycles and becoming a god. Not intentionally, but of course this kind of negates Homura's wish to protect Madoka. That is why she became a magical girl. So, of course, we see that Madoka was trying to do this to protect everybody, but in the end, we see that Homura still has memories of Madoka, even though nobody should have memories of Madoka at all. And it's like, holy shit. And I explain it like this, and you're like, well, that's kind of stupid. There's so much else she could have wished for to kind of like negate the effects of Kyubey's race. And why don't you think about it? Kyubey's race, even though they pride themselves on kind of logic, on kind of a Vulcan level, they do not understand the effect that they're having on the universe, because if you really strive for balance, you would understand that entropy would have to occur at some point. You're essentially doing the Dark Souls method of trying to keep rekindling the bonfire eternally to try and keep the universe going. But everything that lives must die. Even if you're immortal, the universe would end and thereby end you, but yet it would rebirth and start the cycle over again. So it's like, you're not being as logical as you think. So, of course, that's where the series ends. With Homura, her wish kind of being kind of screwed up, and we see Madoka going through and saving the magical girls before they become witches, even stopping herself from becoming a witch. It's really like, okay, it was kind of the best case scenario for them going forward. And it's like, okay. So then we get into Rebellion, which takes the misdirection stuff going on that was going on in the series and takes it to another level, because I was so freaked out about what was going on in the beginning of this, because it looked like it was almost like a typical Magical Girls series, because you had Homura, Madoka, Sayaka, Mame, and the veteran rogue kind of magical girl, kind of just like fighting bad dreams, nightmares, and doing it in weird ways. It's like, what the hell is going on? And it just keeps getting weirder and weirder as we find out that this is Homura's labyrinth. She has been transformed into a witch by Kyubei's race, because even their memories were screwed up, because what happened when Madoka became the Law of Cycles is that witches were no longer a thing, but race were. There had to be a balancing out effect somehow, because with Madoka's thing, she kind of essentially screwed up the balance, kind of, because it makes sense that you would have magical girls and you would have witches, the yin and yang kind of balancing effect that needed to occur for these kind of powerful parts of this weird mechanism to fight off entropy to occur. So she was kind of internalizing that herself to a degree. I believe it's kind of weird, because I don't think it's completely explained, but I think it's explained enough that you're like, okay, something's kind of off, and it kind of starts going through there. Because we find out that Kyubei's race had essentially locked off Homura to turn her into a witch, and we're trying to figure out how to control Madoka to get back to the original kind of timeline where witches were involved to get more energy and all that. So, of course, we find out that Sayaka and this other witch, the one that had killed Mame, were Madoka's kind of like memory receptacles to a degree, because she became such an entity that it had Madoka in it, but she kind of used the other magical girls to retain her memories, because Homura, to rescue Homura, they kind of had to go into her labyrinth to kind of like get her out, and of course she's trying to sacrifice herself to make sure that Kyubei and his race do not get Madoka, to protect her, to fulfill her wish. And of course, they are able to break the prison, and Madoka's coming down to take her before she becomes a witch. But instead of that occurring, Homura transforms into like almost like the true form of a witch, I believe. She calls herself a demon, but she was not corrupted by despair, but she was corrupted by her obsessive love for Madoka and to protect her, and thus fractioned off the Madoka portion of the Law of Cycles and brought that down and kind of used the portion of her power to rewrite the universe and the laws, and I think expand her labyrinth over the universe, essentially bringing everyone into her kind of like heaven/hell, because if Madoka had taken Homura, she would be in that heaven, but Kyubei and the race would eventually get to a point where they would figure out how to capture Madoka. In this, so, in essence, tried to do a selfish thing, whereas Madoka tried to do a selfless thing. She was trying to selfishly protect Madoka and the rest of the magical girls and everything from this horrible fate. Because it's really interesting to figure out how the wishes are done. Homura and the rest of them kind of did selfish wishes. Now, granted, Homura's was kind of less selfish, because she wanted to... Less selfish because it's weren't protecting one person, but of course the Psycho wanted for something good for someone else, and of course the veteran one wanted good for someone else as well. Of course, Madoka did hers kind of selfishly, but didn't think about the true ramifications of what was going to happen. And almost kind of selfishly wanted to do something selfless. And not, of course, specifically focusing on herself. She wanted to help people, but she didn't understand that taking away the memory of everything was going to affect Homura in this manner. Because she would still have that kind of emptiness in everything. And I think the main reason for her transformation is for Homura's transformation into like the ultimate version of the witch / demon, as she calls herself, calling herself evil, though I don't believe that she's evil, is she had a break. She had a psychological break. She was living the same life over and over and saw so many people dying and everything that she went fucking insane. Now, granted, not complete insanity, but she saw her chance, took it, and pretty much made her crazy kind of hell heaven, and had everybody kind of like pulled into that, and this piece of Madoka that she could protect from Kyubey, even though she could eventually get her memories back and get back to the law of cycles, even saying that, oh, even if we become enemies one day or whatnot, it's still worth it and all that. It's like, damn, fuck, man. And just seeing that go on was like really crazy. It's really very good. It just unnerved me about what was going on because it just pervaded a sense of unease that I have never gotten from anything else before. I've jumped at jump scares in monster movies and stuff like that. Some of my favorite ones are like Alien and The Thing. But this kind of freaked me out even more. And seeing what Homura did to Kyubey's race, pretty much putting them in to take on the despair and everything that goes on with the magical girls was nice. And I didn't think that she went far enough. Because as I said, that Kyubey's race kind of reminded me of a Lovecraftian kind of horror. From their perspective, that you can see that like Homura and what she's done is kind of a Lovecraftian horror to them because they have no concept. They don't understand what she's done and how she's doing it, and they're just like completely like, what the fuck? It's just crazy, and I couldn't recommend it more. This is really good one for interesting like character and really deep development, a lot of symbolism going on that you could do a lot of research into, and really interesting kind of ways that the witches are done, because those fights are very different. And at first I was like, I don't know if I like these, but as it went on, I'm like, okay, I really like how they did it. It was just like crazy. So this is for someone who really wants to dig into something, really dig into the characters and get into their motivations and understand what is going on throughout this story and just being like mind fucked about what's going on. And I couldn't recommend it more. So those are my opinions on the anime. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.